let's talk a bit about why feedback is tough to provide and what you can do about it. And also how you're going to formally provide feedback in this class. So the first thing I'd like to acknowledge, just straight up, is that feedback is difficult to provide from an emotional perspective and can be difficult to receive. So most of us at some point, you've gotten some kind of feedback from somebody that even if the words that were being spoken were not so bad, that it felt judgmental or in bad faith, that it was not really feedback, it was more of this harsher judgment. Now, having been conditioned on these kind of experiences in our lives, we're sometimes afraid to give even constructive negative feedback for fear that what we're saying is going to be seen as some sort of attack. And we're also always watching out that things that people tell us that we're trying to make sure that those things are not ill-intentioned towards us. So let's say your partner has been out all weekend doing some fun thing or whatever, and you guys were supposed to work, and you say to your partner, hey, by the way, we're running a little late, and I think you should be working more on this project. Just trying to imagine, even me just now trying to say it was difficult to do. And trying to do it in a way that isn't sort of driving a wedge between you and your partner can be very challenging. Another reason the feedback can be tough. It can seem like a waste of time, right? This notion of trying to give your partner feedback during this project. You're in the middle of a programming class. So for example, we're going to make you formally fill out twice during this project in only 12 days some feedback forms. And for some of you, it may feel like a waste of time. This is a technical course. Why are we doing this? And also just in your casual interactions, trying to give feedback. It feels like you have a lot going on. You have your other courses. You have this project to worry about. So thinking about the process by which your partnership in some classes is going seems like maybe just not a good use of time. Now, in the real world, that same thing happens. You're working on a team. You have some real world goal that you need to achieve, like whatever it may be at say a company or a nonprofit or your own personal project or whatever it is you're doing. So it seems like if you only have so much time to figure out what to do, then it seems like a bad use of time to figure out on how you're working together, to sit down and try and work out your tensions or whatever else you have between the team. Nonetheless, it's actually very valuable, okay, just in the long term, and you might find it useful to get a little practice in this class. And then lastly, another reason that feedback is hard is that coming up with actual feedback can be difficult to do. So you may be able to do really amazing technical things. So in your life, you may build really incredible technical skills through your education here at Berkeley or wherever. But I think one thing that most of you will always find difficult is finding a way to provide useful feedback. So whether you're an employee trying to give feedback to your manager, or you're a manager trying to give feedback to folks that work for you, or just in life in general, just feedback is tough. Right? If you ever have to write a performance evaluation someday, you will see it is very difficult to do. Now, without confidence in the ability to provide feedback, it may be that it just doesn't happen, right? You probably, I bet most of you will probably not sit down and reflect on your process until we make you fill out the form. And that's because it's awkward and difficult to do without the confidence to be able to do it and knowing how to do it. You're going to wait until there's some structured time that forces you to do feedback. But I would encourage you to try and give each other feedback as you go. So what I would say is that if you feel like your partnership could be better in some way, try and talk about it without waiting until the formal review period. Otherwise, you could maybe let something negative fester, or you may just not push your team to its full potential promptly. Now, just to give you a sense of what the formal process of reflecting looks like, we're going to have you do the following when you reflect with your team. So twice, you are going to fill out a form where you're going to reflect on the following bases. So one, you're going to say whether or not the partnership has worked well for you, and you'll say strongly disagree, disagree, neutral, agree, strongly agree, and same thing, estimating what you think your partner feels. Do you think the partnership has worked well for your partner? You will estimate the balance of work between you and your partner and briefly explain. So for example, if you say 50-50, that means you think you contributed about equally. It's worth noting that I'm not talking about lines of code here. I'm saying just in general, if you think about all the contributions you have made in some sense, maybe you made cookies, I don't know, whatever you wanted to do, then write about it. Now, we're not expecting it to be 50-50 for everybody. It's just, whatever it happened to shake out to. This is not a class, or especially this is not a project where I expect co-equal exact work. If applicable, we'll ask you to give a particularly great moment from your partnership if you're willing to share. And you should give an example of something you think you could do better, and similarly for your partner, what they could do better. Now, I will note that except in really extreme cases, we're not going to be penalizing partners who contributed less. So if your group ends up being 80-20 or even 90-10, but you're both pretty much okay with that, I guess 90-10 is kind of pushing it, but we're not going to be penalizing partners who contributed less unless there's like deep antipathy or like one person literally did nothing. Okay. Okay, so that's it as far as team reflection goes. Now again, this may seem a little bit far afield from the kinds of things that you've seen in 61A or Data 8 or 88 or 61B so far, or E7, let's say. But nonetheless, I still think it's pretty important. It's hard for me to teach, and something I would love from you later, whenever we do those course evaluations, is some feedback on what you think about this whole teamwork process and what I've talked about here. All right, so that's it as far as the teamwork process goes, and so yeah, that's it for this video.